Hey everyone, JT Curtis here, and well, the new David Gilmour album, Luck and Strange, has finally dropped. And if you remember in my Pink Floyd album reviews series, when I did a video called Recent Solo Albums, I mentioned that David was in the studio with Steve Gadd and Guy Pratt and Romany Gilmour, and I would talk about it when it came out. Well, here I am. I'm a man of my word. This is just going to be a first impressions video. It's not a full album review because I kind of want to sit with it a little bit and, see if my opinions change a little bit. It also might be nice to listen to it in a better state of mind when I'm not sitting at home with a brace on my arm. If you're wondering why I have a brace on my arm, I fell and injured it and have to stay in it for 3 weeks. I made a whole video about that. Check it out. But my first impressions are, I like the album. I don't know if I would call it his best album or anything like that. But I think it's definitely got a good flow. It's very easygoing, very chill, deals with a lot of subjects like, I think, mortality. And because I think they were working on it when the pandemic was happening, there's a lot of reactions to the pandemic. I'll get into that in a minute. And it was produced by, I have notes right here, by the way. It was produced by Charlie Andrew. And I had read that Charlie Andrew was kind of trying to come at it in a more modern sense, which may have included him saying, well, do we really need guitar solos? And my initial thought was, uh-oh. I don't know. I'm always of the mind of, you've got David Gilmour, arguably one of the greatest guitar players alive today. Just let him play guitar. That's the way I see it. But don't worry, guitar fans. There are many solos here, many fine solos. Do we have a solo that's as great as Shine On You Crazy Diamond or Comfortably Numb or even High Hopes from the Division Bell? Well, I'll get into that in a minute. I thought it'd be good if I discussed what I thought of his other solo albums. So for those of you who don't know and are new to this channel, first of all, please be sure to subscribe. I really appreciate it. Let the YouTube algorithm know that you want videos other than Mr. Beast videos. And I made a series called Pink Floyd Album Reviews where I went through their entire discography and their history, but I also discussed their solo albums a little bit as well, including Dave's. His first album came out in 1978, right before they did The Wall, and I really like his first solo album. It's just called David Gilmour. It's really, you can tell he's just got a lot of ideas. He just kind of wanted to get out of his system. It sounds like he's having a lot of fun. I really like songs like I Can't Breathe Anymore and There's No Way Out of Here. And some of the instrumentals like Raise My Rent. I really love that instrumental. Really, really good, solid album. And then later in the 80s, he made About Face. Not as crazy about that album. I think it was his earnest attempt at making a commercial album. And, it's okay. I think it's got a couple of good songs. Murder, I think, is a good song. And then he took the reins of Pink Floyd when Roger Waters left. Momentary Lapse of Reason, The Division Bell. I still love The Division Bell. It's one of my favorite Pink Floyd albums. And then he met Polly Samson. Polly Samson became the lyricist for The Division Bell, and they started a family and decided to focus on family life. And David came back in the mid-2000s with an album called On an Island. Now, I love On an Island. That is arguably my favorite Pink Floyd solo album. It's either that or Rodgers and Muse to Death, but I love that album so much just as a real epic musical triumph. I think it's a great album. Still, I hold it in very high regard. And then he did the tour with Richard Wright. It was their last tour together. And sadly, Rick passed. And then he made the album Rattle That Lock. Didn't quite get into Rattle That Lock as much as On an Island, but it definitely had its musical moments. So I wasn't quite sure what to think of this new album. It's been a little under 10 years. So, and let's face the facts here. David Gilmour is getting older. And, you know, when rock stars get older, they're obviously not going to be singing the same way or playing the same way for the most part. So with that in mind, I was wondering, well, what are they working on? And some of David's recent songs, like Yes, I Have Ghosts and stuff like that, are a bit mellow for me. But I was pleasantly surprised at some of the songs that we're putting out. The Piper's Call was the first one that I heard, and I liked The Piper's Call. I really liked the jam at the end. There's a jam with Steve Gadd and Guy Pratt, and David playing a really cool solo. You can see he's not lost one step in that regard. But then now I've gotten to listen to the rest of the album. So I have a couple of notes here. I'll just kind of go down and let you know. So obviously Luck and Strange, David Gilmour is writing most of these songs with Polly Samson, his wife. Again, she has written all of his lyrics pretty much since the Division Bell. And I know a lot of Pink Floyd fans write her off, that she's not as good as Roger Waters. I actually like her lyrics. I don't like all of her lyrics, but I like a lot of them, especially on the Division Bell. And also, I like her lyrics on an Island. The last album I didn't get into as much, but she has her moments here. Sometimes I'm not quite sure if she's writing all the lyrics or Dave's also writing some lyrics, but they are the two main driving forces of the album. We've also got their daughter Romany Gilmour contributing, and I think to a lesser extent Gabriel. We've also got Guy Pratt, Steve Gadd, Rob Gentry. I already mentioned it was produced by Charlie Andrew. And so the album begins with Black Cat. It's a little short instrumental. Black Cat refers to his new Strat, his new black Strat. Remember, he sold his black Strat to an auction to raise money to fight climate change. I've seen for the upcoming tour he's going to have, which I'm going to see in New York, he is playing the Black Cat Strat with the little Black Cat decal. It's definitely not the opening that we get on an Island, which is just this incredible overture of soundscapes, and David's guitar is so good with all these Wish You Were Here kind of orchestra behind it. So not quite as good as that, but it's interesting. And then the title track comes in, and I was surprised to find out, because I didn't know that much about the album going into it, but I was listening to Luck and Strange, and I'm listening to this electric piano and going, that sounds like Rick. That sounds like Richard Wright. And when I looked it up, sure enough, that is Rick playing. And I was so happy to hear that, because we unfortunately lost Rick in 2008. And this comes from a barn jam that Dave and Rick did with Guy Pratt and Steve DeStanislaw. And they were able to take one of their jams and turn it into the song, Luck and Strange. And I think it's a cool song, a cool little, vibey sort of song. Sort of the vibe that you would have gotten on The Endless River, except this is an actual song, which is kind of nice. I'm okay with The Endless River. I don't hate it like a lot of Pink Floyd fans do. I just sort of feel like it's a lot of jamming, but there's not really songs behind it. I think that's the most nicest way I can be about it. But I did really like the song. There's an interesting lyric that I found where Dave sings, "Quite the time to be a boy, six-string masters of an expanding universe." And I'm wondering if that was a nod to when he was growing up and was listening to all his favorite guitar players that inspired him. David Gilmour has, for many, many, many years, always had sort of a nostalgic approach to his lyrics, like going all the way back to Fat Old Son. Obviously, High Hopes is a reflection on his Cambridge days. He doesn't really go for the cynical political commentary that Roger goes for. Dave's more kind of personal. And I think Polly Samson has kind of made his lyrics maybe a little more imaginative, if I'm saying the right word. Sorry if I'm not making any sense. I'm a little tired. It's been a time, but you don't want to hear about that. But no, I just think there's some more vivid imagery that comes out of that. And then, but yeah, like I said, it's great to hear Rick's playing. And on the version I heard on Spotify, there's a full version of their barn jam, so I can hear where they picked out Rick's pieces at. And I think Dave was right to go back and add some more guitar and obviously add a song to it, because he echoes some of Rick's playing, and you get like a nice sort of echoes moment. And it really, it does kind of tug at your heartstrings, because you realize that, you know, we're not going to get to hear them do this anymore, unfortunately. But really, I like the song Looking Strange. It's a cool little vibey song. Like I said, I already talked about The Piper's Call. And I can see why it follows Looking Strange. It's got a more acousticy, islandish kind of on an island kind of vibe. And then A Single Spark follows after. That's probably one of the more modern sounding songs. And, you know, it's got a nice solo to it. It's interesting because a lot of these songs, they don't stand out to me necessarily, with maybe a couple of exceptions. So I'm hoping that maybe I just need to kind of listen to them a couple more times. But I think that in terms of songwriting, I'm not quite getting like these masterpieces of songwriting that I felt I got on The Division Bell or On an Island. But who knows? Like I said, this is a first impressions video. There's a instrumental called Vita Brevis. And then comes to the song that I'm a little undecided on. It's called Between 2 Points, and it features Romany Gilmour. Now, listen, when I first found out that his daughter was going to be singing on one of his own songs, I went, uh-oh, here we go. Here's the nepotism moment. And Romany is not a bad singer by any means. She's competent. I think maybe she's approaching it from a more like Billie Eilish sort of approach. And I'm not really a big fan of that sound. She is very trained, so yeah, I don't know how I felt. I honestly was getting kind of bored listening to it. It's actually, and it's also a cover. I did not write down who actually wrote it, so I apologize for that. But I did see the rehearsal footage that Dave just uploaded, and I liked the way she was hitting it and also playing harp. So, you know, maybe she just needs to, you know, keep working on it and keep singing and get confident. You know, as Troy McClure once said, "Get confident, stupid." You know, there has to be a Simpsons reference in every one of these videos. The song that initially stood out to me from a lot was also Dark and Velvet Nights. This is probably the closest to a rocker you're going to get. It's interesting. For some reason, I was picking up James Bond kind of vibe. It's like maybe this could be the next James Bond song. The way the strings are, some of the guitar lines have a very like secret agent sort of vibe, and some of them are really big. And we do get a guitar solo at the end. My biggest problem with it is that I think the strings are mixed too high. And there's plenty of David Gilmour songs where there's strings behind him, but I just felt like the strings were too loud and his guitar was kind of sort of fighting with them, if that makes sense. And I think that's part of having Charlie Andrews' influence. Whether you think he was the right person to produce this or not, it remains to be seen. And then we got a song called Sings. And interesting, this is the other one that feels very modern to me, but I think this might have been the one song that stood out to me the most. It's very soft and subtle. There's no guitar solo in it, but I think it moved me the most from an emotional standpoint. From the lyrical standpoint, because I know that they were working on this album when the pandemic was going on, And some of the lyrics really do make me think that this is about living through the pandemic and just kind of getting through day to day, with the one you love and everyone, which I certainly remember going through. And I think it might be the best overall song. There's an organ solo, and there's a nice little bass bit at the end, which I found out is actually David Gilmour playing that bass bit at the end. It's a nice little tasty bass. One lyric that did stand out to me is, "Darling, don't make the tea. Stay and snooze here with me." I really like that lyric. It may seem very mundane to anybody who's looking for a grander piece from like Animals or something, but the other thing is Roger has made very romantic songs as well, and just the idea of like, let's just stay here for a minute, let's just enjoy each other's company. I think it's a really nice image and really romantic. I don't know if Polly wrote that or Dave wrote it, but I do really like the sentiment of it. And then the last song is called Scattered. And this was an interesting song. A good, solid ending to the album. Probably sounds the most like a Pink Floyd song. You can hear some Leslie piano in it. The lyrics seem to really deal with facing mortality. And I think, Dave is just, it's the lyrics of mortality and just realizing like, maybe he's unsure of like how much time he has left in this world. Let's hope a long time. Maybe, he can make another album after this. And we get our big guitar solo of the album, which starts off acoustically. It starts off with an acoustic solo, and then it builds up to an electric guitar solo that's a little gritty. And then by the end, it's just pure David Gilmour, epic guitar hero moment. And it's followed by one more lyric. I actually like that it's followed by one more lyric, because a lot of the guitar solos just sort of feel like they're just kind of tacked on at the end. And I always liked when the guitar solos were implemented into the song more. But that's just me personally. Overall, I like the album. I think it flows nicely. It's a very chilled, relaxed vibe. I don't know if you're going to get any biting commentary out of that if you're more a fan of, the classic lyrics of Pink Floyd. And I would say, while I like a lot of the guitar solos on this album, none of them to me scream like High Hopes on the Division Bell or the Blue on an Island. I love the Blue. That's one of my favorite David Gilmour guitar solos. It's so beautifully played with the whammy pedal. I absolutely love it. And I don't know, I'm not really hearing that as much on this album. It's kind of cool that he's playing a 335. I was happy to see that in the videos. But I have to say I do like the new album, because I bought tickets to go see David Gilmour realizing he's going to play the entire album, or at least a good portion of the album, because that's what he does. Every time he does a tour, he does it to promote his new album. And I am looking forward to hearing him tackle a bunch of these songs. Like I said, I saw the rehearsal footage, and I liked the way they did Dark and Velvet Nights. Would love to hear them do Scattered and, Luck and Strange. I'm curious how they're going to do Luck and Strange without Rick, but he does have Greg Fillinganes on keyboards, who is a worthy stand-in for Rick. He did Live at Pompeii, and I think he did a great job. So, and I was also happy to see in the rehearsal footage that they did a couple of songs from Dark Side of the Moon, Breathe and Time. And you can tell, Dave's voice, it's not as strong as it used to be. Again, he's getting older. We understand that. That's just what happens. Roger's voice, it isn't the same as it was either. But I think he's doing a good job of adjusting as needed. I mean, even I will sometimes have gigs where I have a sore throat or something like that, and I have to adjust the melody as needed. And I think he's done that before with like Shine On You Crazy Diamond and stuff. So, you have to accept it's not going to be David Gilmour from 1973. This is David Gilmour as he is now, and I think he's made some interesting music here, and I'm curious to hear it performed when I see him at Madison Square Garden. And yeah, that's pretty much my overall thoughts on the album. I'm not going to give it a fish rating yet because I want to sit with it a little bit. But I would say definitely check it out. I mean, I listened to it on Spotify, and I had no problems listening to it on Spotify. I know it's available on vinyl and CD if you prefer to listen to it that way. And who knows? Maybe I'll buy it at the venue. Yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on Luck and Strange. Thank you everybody for checking it out. Please be sure to subscribe, or you can also join my Patreon page if you're not already on my Patreon page right now. And I will see you all next time. Take care.